He aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora. Apologies for this meeting. We do have an apology from Councillor Edwards for lateness, and we do have apologies from Councillors Barrett and Shaw, and noting, of course, we have Councillor Tupou online today. So could those apologies, I'll move those apologies, seconded by Councillor Morgan. All those in favour say aye. Those against, declare that carried. Public comment. Don't believe we have anyone from the public here who wishes to speak, so we'll move through to conflict of interest declarations. Is there any conflicts that members would like to declare? No? Okay, moving right through to recommendations to council, and that is our draft annual plan for the upcoming financial year, an engagement material on page 5 of the agenda. Wendy Botha from Corporate Planning will speak to this item. Welcome, Wendy. Any comments you'd like to make, and then we'll open it up for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Today we're seeking approval of the draft annual plan and the engagement document for 25-26, which has been prepared incorporating the elected members' feedback. Public engagement will take place from the 27th of March to 27th of April, and a communications plan's in place to inform the public on how they can engage with us through multiple channels. Following public engagement, there will be a further update from officers in May. Final decisions on the annual plan will be made on the 4th of June before the formal adoption planned for 27th of June. Thank you.
Okay, is there any questions from members? No, if there's no questions, then I'll move through to, sorry, Councillor Mitchell.
We're covering off the engagement document as well on this?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just kind of curious, I guess, first up, what kind of feedback we are seeking from our community this year?
Thank you. We're opening the channel for feedback on... Oh, is it too far away? Thank you. We're opening the channel for feedback of a general nature of saying, well, the annual plan's out there. We invite you to read the annual plan. And then if there is something that someone would question, then they can certainly send that in, whether it's related to fees and charges or any other subject. But we're just inviting feedback on the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a different approach to what I've seen previously in my time of council. We've, I think, always gone out and asked kind of leading questions on a few topics that have floated to the top of the annual plan. And that's okay. I just wanted to make one point, is that in reading the engagement document, it's a very brief document, I didn't really get a sense that we were asking people for feedback on anything. We were telling them a bunch of things. There were no questions, no kind of prompts to think about particular things. And I guess most of all, the very last piece of that document where there's a link through, and the text there does say, is there anything in your annual plan you would like to provide feedback on? However, it's not under a heading saying, please give us your feedback. It's under a heading saying, want to know more. So it's kind of even there suggesting that we can tell you more about, there's more information on our website. It's still not actually asking people for their feedback. So I just overall felt that that engagement document wasn't really asking anyone for their feedback at all. So I don't know if the language can be changed or there can be more encouragement for people to give their feedback. I just felt like it was a bit of a non-engagement document in that sense.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think just important to note that this engagement program is following the principles of light engagement. So it is very similar to striking the right balance annual plan, which was engaged on in 2022. That was largely a one-way directional communications plan that reflected the fact that the annual plan that year didn't change or deviate from the long-term plan. The same would largely be true for this year's annual plan, where we're choosing to do a light touch engagement, which is about informing people of the general approach, particularly the savings council's decided to make and the reduced rating option that council's pursuing. However, we aren't proposing to have a structured survey or eliciting feedback, mainly because there's not necessarily a large scope for changes or specific programs that are up for change and consultation. So that reflects the scope of the influence that people have through this engagement and is largely a communications activity as opposed to a consultation one, because we're technically not consulting on the annual plan. It's a light engagement around it instead.
Councillor Stallinger.
I really just had one concern reading through, and so this is kind of the context of my question, is our community are very aware that there has been some very significant events of late in relation to Wellington Water and the value for money that we haven't been getting. And I just can't help wonder why we are putting this document out, talking about savings and other things. Sure, that's fair enough, but this is a far more overwhelming issue than any savings or tweaks we're making that will be in people's minds when they're reading it. I would have thought in here we would have at least have mentioned this issue, given its significance, and also made some comments about our position on it and what was happening and what we were doing specifically to address the concerns that people in the community will have, because the largest part of the expending in the plan is spending on which there are very serious concerns over. So that's my question, is why is that not mentioned at all? It feels to me like the elephant in the room.
I think, can I maybe answer that one? And also, it's something I was mindful of as well, as a suggestion. With the Local Water Done Well consultation, we have somewhat flagged those reports. And what I was thinking is that maybe we could take the essence of what was said in that Local Water Done Well consultation, copy and paste, and put it in this document as well, because there will need to be more information that comes back to council, and hopefully by May, June, we will have some of that, maybe not all of it. Is that something we think is manageable? Would that alleviate those concerns, councillor?
Potentially. I guess I'd have to see it, but that sounds good.
In essence, it flags the reports, the issues raised, and what we're doing about them, and that more will come back. So that's what's in there in a nutshell. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, one of the best things I think we have done with engagement around the financials is the $100 per rates breakdown table. I'm just wondering if that could go in the engagement document. I think it's the most useful one-pager we put out. I know it's in the annual plan and amongst all the pages, but I just think having that there on that page where it talks about rates. So I'm seeing nods for that. Cool. And then my second question is, do we have to mention what the LTP figure was with growth and that we've now dropped to this figure, or could we just say this is the figure we're going up with, or do we have to make reference to the LTP figure? Just the first figure you read in the document talks about it was going to be 13.4% after growth in the 2024-25 year, but we have dropped it to 13. I'm just wondering, can we just go out and say what it's going to be rather than talking about what it could have been?
I don't think we have to, but we thought it was a key message to sort of join the dots to the 10-year plan or the LTP, so that's why we've included it.
Yeah, I mean, reading it, as long as you read more than one sentence, you can see the context of it. So I don't see an issue with that. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, with those changes, and I think they can fall into, with our agreement, some minor changes that the Chief Executive can sign off, and we can just send that around as an FYI for members around that addition on the value for money reports context. Okay, so I will move the recommendations 1 through to 5. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Briggs, any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Oh, Councillor Stallinger.
Yeah, thank you for your comments earlier, Mr. Mayor, which do alleviate my concerns a little bit. Look, I've really struggled with this one, even more so than recent years. where, as members will know, I've tended to vote for our plans in general, but typically against the rates increase, because I've seen some areas where I think we could have trimmed costs somewhat, and I've generally mentioned those. This time I find myself in a different position where there are very serious concerns over the bulk of our expenditure, not just ones that I may feel myself, but concerns that are public. I appreciate the steps that staff are taking in response to those, and us, including yourself, to consider what's come out of recent reports. But I still remain very much on edge over our spending. And as we know, it's the biggest ever spending in the history of this organisation. I'm talking about the water asset renewals. I guess the sort of things that are concerning me is how difficult it seems to be to get quick responses to questions that I think really should be on the fingertips of us all. And it's things like, what's the backlog of infrastructure in the water area? What is the length of pipe that we're behind? How much is that going to cost us to fix it? And I asked those questions in January. I still don't have a response to it. When I ask questions like, what does it cost us on average to replace a length of pipe? It's not something that we're aware of. It has to something, have to go away and work on it to figure it out. And these are the sort of things that we should have been monitoring regularly throughout the years. When I did a bit of research myself, I identified that the cost to fix a water leak doubled in the space of not much more than 12 months. Why weren't we noticing that? Why weren't we discussing that? So I just feel very uncomfortable about the scale of the expenditure and the potential lack of good value that we may be delivering. And so, I've been toing and froing whether I should just approve this draft. It goes out for consultation and so on. But I think, just given the strength of my concerns, I'm really left with little choice but to vote against it. I just don't feel comfortable that we have relied on trust in respect of the biggest program of expenditure the council has ever delivered. Now, it's fair enough, we should have expected much better from Wellington Water, and we've been disappointed in that regard. But I just feel we should have identified that much earlier. That we should have been responding earlier, and even now we should have answers to questions like I've been asking. Should be just bang, bang, bang. Yes, here it is. Not 2 months later and I still don't have it. So I'll be voting against the recommendations.
Any other comment? All those in favour say aye. Those against no. Declare that carried. And we'll note that opposition. Yep. Okay, moving through to questions. Received no questions, so okay, so we will close with our closing karakia. Unihia, unihia, unihia e te uru tapunui, kia wātia, kia mama, tia nākau, tia tina, tia wairua e te ara takatū. Koia the rongo, whakeiri, haki, kia oranga, kia wātia, ara, kua wātia, hau, paumaria. Declare the meeting closed at 1:16 p.m. Thanks everyone, and we'll be back underway at 2 for full council.